Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Committee of the Whole meeting in Metchosin for May 11th, 2026. Welcome all. Just before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're gathered here in the Coast Salish territories and the home of our near neighbors, the Shanu and Sooke nations. I would remind people perhaps to turn their cell phones off if they have cell phones. And our first item on the agenda would be agenda approval. And we have a set of pinks here that we'd like to add to the agenda. And I wonder if anyone would like to move approval of the agenda.
Move approval with the additions of the supplemental information.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Doehnel. All in favor? Great, the agenda is adopted. There are no presentations this evening, but I'd like to invite the public participation. They're 4 minutes per person to a maximum of 45 minutes. And if you come up to the microphone, if you'd identify yourself and the street you live on. And there's some lights there that give you an idea. Green is a go and yellow is you're reaching the end of your time, and red means it's time to wrap up. But if anyone would like to speak, please step forward.
Did I do that right? Oh, okay. I have a loud voice. I used to lecture, so. My name is Ted White. I'm 3839 Gilbert Drive. I want to speak this evening as quickly as I can about the proposal before council about dark sky. There is a proposal to become designated as a dark sky community. Now, the origins of this go back well over 10 years, I believe. Morley, Milne, and Bill Ware, and some other members of the community first proposed to council that we do something along this. And that has resulted in us having a bylaw which governs how our municipal lighting is done. We are in compliance with something called CGAL, which is the Canadian Guidelines for Outdoor Lighting. So there is a plaque on the wall over there that was given to us by the Royal Astronomical Society in recognition of this effort and thanking us. It's not formal, but this was something that was nice. 2023, I decided to try and help Metchosin and volunteered, and I got on the Healthy Communities Committee. When I was on the committee, there was a call for suggestions. What can we do? I suggested looking into dark sky designation. Now that's a bit more formal than what's on the wall. That's an international recognition, which carries with it a lot of cachet and would be good for us, I think, in terms of promotion for the community. So I did some homework, decided that the dark sky community designation from Dark Sky International was our best fit. And there's a proposal that was written that lays that all out. I consulted with the Environment Committee because obviously there's a lot of overlap between the health of people and the health of the environment, and got a very favorable response. So the upshot was Healthy Communities passed a motion to recommend to council back in 2023 that they be asked to develop a formal proposal. That was approved by council in January the 15th of 2024. So I got to work because I'm the guy who said, let's do it. Well, it turned out to be simple. The way Dark Sky International works is that they want to work with you. They don't want you submitting a whole bunch of stuff that they have to go and then process takes 2 to 3 years to do, and they want to work with you every step of the way. So the approval does not come until both parties are satisfied. And that's an important point, I think, for these designations. So I drafted a proposal, put it to the Healthy Communities Committee, and it didn't go through. And I still do not understand what happened because they were very keen for the meeting and not so keen when it actually came to time to vote. Summer intervened, came back in the fall. It was removed from the agenda. And I had no input into that either, so I still didn't understand what was going on. I've had some health problems. You may have noticed that I'm walking with a cane. So by the end of that year, my term was up. I decided not to re-up. And it was a good thing because I wound up in the hospital with major surgery and some other issues. So fast forwarding, about 3 weeks ago, we had Dark Sky Week, and I had not paid any attention to this for a while. Somebody put posters up, dark skies in Metchosin with sheep on them. What? And I don't know if anybody's seen the movie, The Sheep Detectives. If you haven't, it's wonderful. Go and see it. The sheep take over an investigation. Are the sheep in charge in Metchosin now? Maybe, I don't know. Well, I got a call from Environment saying, are you responsible? Am I run over?
Ted, unfortunately, you've used up your time.
Okay.
But thank you for speaking.
All right.
Would anybody else like to speak this evening? Thank you.
Good evening. Bonnie Gruber. Field Road. The topic, of course, is the bufferland. First of all, I want to thank Mayor, councillors, staff, and our planner for the thoroughly prepared documents contained. You can't hear? Okay. Is that better? Thank you. Okay, sorry. I want to thank the mayor, councillors, and staff, and our planner for the thoroughly prepared documents contained in the agenda package for tonight's meeting. I reviewed all of them. It was very time-consuming and heavy reading, but it was well worth it. It was extremely beneficial to me. All of you are well aware of my thoughts already, and I don't need to repeat any of them. Thank you for your commitment and dedication to make this happen. I'm hoping you will select option 1 so this huge task can be completed in a timely manner. Now the plan is in place. We need the protection for this green space to happen as soon as possible. Time has a way of marching on. I believe bad habits have already started on the bufferland. Example, the commercial dog walkers. And it is going to be a challenge to correct them. Therefore, time is of the essence. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the committee? Good evening. Your microphone is.
I live on Perry. I didn't need your help. Perry Crossroad. I want to say thank you to Ted for talking about the dark skies. I hadn't paid a lot of attention to it, and I found the 2 pieces of correspondence tonight really helpful. And honestly, my first thought was, how many lights does Metchosin actually have that are influenced by this policy? I was impressed that we've already got the plaque and we've done so much. And my next thought went to my neighbor who moved here from Saanich, who immediately put up cafe string lights through their entire front yard of 2 acres, which was dark previously, but this policy doesn't apply to that situation. So my next thought was, is there a bylaw then that would flow from this? And we know how difficult that was in terms of the last good neighbor bylaw. So I will leave it at that. It does have some of its challenges, but it seems like a laudable objective. My main purpose is to talk about items 7.2.1 and 8A on the agenda. Essentially, we've got an opportunity to create a much stronger technical feedback mechanism and planning process for the Firehall project. The steering committee right now has a lot of appropriate technical experts when it's sort of stagnated when there was efforts to try and get them back to work, but there were issues there with their mandate and how it might work through phase 2. The CIO is responsible for project planning and management responsibility for the Firehall process, and it's agreed that he would benefit from access to experienced technical advisors. But we have an existing group that's already volunteered themselves to conduct the work to date. And then we have tonight the proposal that's come forward from a group of 4 experienced volunteers that have offered to do this community needs assessment. And I'm just quoting analysis of scenarios and options, including financial considerations. it's well understood that the community needs analysis needs to happen in more depth, and that it needs to take into account constructability considerations, because that was one of the key things that came up during the reviews, the issues being driven by the BC Building Code and structural issues. The other thing that's key to this is transparency. Transparency builds trust. Knowledge also builds trust. And my belief is that council should focus on the most transparent approach possible. And that is looking at a bit of a hybrid approach to refining the technical committee that's been proposed by the CAO. And that is look at the existing steering committee and the technical expertise that's on it, which includes a lot of the key technical background. And then there are some new voices that are interested in participating in the community. We seem to need a process that involves both of that, but in a transparent process that reports back through to council. And it seems that identifying those skill gaps and identifying an opportunity to actually apply for those positions, because you know, we've got a lot of volunteers out there, it seems, that want to put their time forward, and most committees work better when they're tight and they can be nimble and they can respond quickly and build a good rapport with one another. And it seems that's also a value that we've heard, that the CAO would like to potentially pick up the phone and call somebody and maybe ask a quick technical question before going down a certain path. And having that opportunity available would be helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Sawatsky, Kavir Road. I've just heard about this new steering committee, and I think the one thing that is missing from the information we already have is our new fire chief. What input has he had? We know pretty much what the old fire chief wanted, and maybe we should have called a halt to the whole thing when we knew she had given her notice. I think we should get more information from all sorts of citizens. I would, as a taxpayer, really be a lot happier with, say, an $8 million fire hall than a $20 million fire hall, which has been dubbed the Tajma Fire Hall. So I really think that we need to talk to our new chief. Certainly need to talk to Jeffrey, our CFO over there. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Avril Yoakum, Windfall Road, ditto.
I didn't hear that, sorry.
I'll just repeat for your benefit, Mayor, a little. Avril Yoakum said ditto. Any others would like to speak this evening?
My name is Gary Smurfett. I live on Gilbert Drive. I'm a 40-year Metchosinite. I'm one of the 4 professionals who've put their names forward and have worked to prepare this proposal for a technical team that's in front of Committee of the Whole tonight. I've been asked why did I become part of it? And the answer is, the first answer, and the answer that my family said, is to tell them that you're very concerned about the costs that seem to be associated, and you want to make sure there's a place for your children to live in Metchosin that they can afford. Affordability of it is of grave concern, and it seems to me, I'm just speaking for myself, although the team is a team, and so I want to make sure you're hearing me and not the team. I believe there's been a lack of steering on this committee. It's over 4 years in existence. They haven't had a meeting 6 months. I don't want to be part of that. I think there's a need to reset, and we're offering a short period of time to do a technical reset. There's people here that have experience in project management. I think that's important. We don't need to hire another consultant to tell us how to go forward. That's my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie Larkin, Jelinek Place. And I want to start by appreciating all the hard work and the long hours that the council members put in service to this community. I really honor that work. I know how hard it is. So I'm a signatory to a letter that was, I'm getting an echo. Are you getting an echo? I'm too close? It's okay. Signatory to a letter that was sent to council and the CAO on April 20th regarding, on behalf of some of the residents of LaBonne. I'm assuming everybody knows about LaBonne, or at least knows where it is. And we asked in that letter for a swift recognition of the dangerously high levels of dump truck traffic on LaBonne. And just to get a little quick context, sometimes trucks, 40 a day, heavy loads, very heavy loads, 6 to 8 hours a day, driving on the shoulders, damaging the shoulders all the way up LaBonne, creating hazard traffic for residents who are driving, who are trying to exit their lanes and exit their roads. And walking is dangerous because there's so much damage to the side of the road, especially in the narrow lane area. Jake brakes during the day. Dirt and debris on the road, especially near the property where the dumping is happening. Equipment left on the side of the road, long periods of endless dumping. And then just recently this weekend, clearly, because it wasn't any evidence that this was done by the Metchosin, under Metchosin's direction, there was a large machine used to push the gravel from the side of the road to try to shore up the road because the road seemed to be, I don't know what the intention was, but I'll show you pictures which are pretty shocking. That's just a little quick rundown. And it doesn't address at all the actual toxic impact to life on the property where this dumping is happening. Now, I know that this is not the point of my speak, but I have to bow to the damage that's being done to that land on the top of that hill. So we asked in our letter for council to invoke a very important capacity that it has under the extraordinary traffic bylaw. And I'm just going to read that for everybody. Some of you know it, but many of you probably don't. We would like to point staff and council to an important provision around extraordinary traffic in Metchosin's Traffic and Highways Recognition Bylaw, number 57, which gives council the ability to regulate, limit, or prohibit the use of the highway by any person operating or in charge of this extraordinary traffic. And extraordinary traffic is described as traffic which substantially alters or increases the burden imposed on the highway over that imposed through its proper use of ordinary traffic, and causes dumpage and expense to the highway beyond what is reasonable or necessary. I could read on more, but I think I make the point for this. Council, what this says is that council has discretionary power. This is not something that is just ruled by a bylaw externally. You have the discretionary power to get the evidence you need or get more if it's required. So the proposal has been sent to the CRD as we understand it. And their response back was to ask us, who have, many of whom have put in many complaints already, to put in more complaints about their history. And that is not what we asked for. We are asking for council to put this on council's agenda and to take it up as a serious matter under the bylaw 57. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more people like to speak this evening?
Sure, I'd like a second round. Never got to the speak box.
Thank you. Well, seeing nobody else getting up, maybe we'll proceed with the agenda. So the next item on the agenda, thanks everyone for the participation. The next item on the agenda is adoption of minutes, and we have the April 9, 2026 Special Finance Committee Budget Meeting Minutes. Start on page 5 of the package.
Move adoption.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's approved. Thank you. The next item for approval is the April 13, 2026 Committee of the Whole minutes.
Move receipt.
This is adoption, but oh gosh, it should be, yeah, Committee of the Whole, so this would be adopting the minutes, I think.
Sure. Yeah, move adoption.
Moved by Councillor Shukin,
Second.
seconded by Councillor Dawson. Thank you. Any comment or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's approved. Thank you. And then we have 3 minutes for receipt. The March 19, 2026 Healthy Communities Advisory Select Committee draft minutes.
Move receipt.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson, and seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's approved. Great. The next are the April 28, 2026 Metchosin Environmental Advisory Select Committee draft minutes.
I'll move receipt for,
Thank you.
for discussion.
Great.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Shukin. And any comments?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to, I know you're not using your iPad, so we'll have to go a little slow here. What page is that? Call it
17.
17.
Right to mine.
Yeah, thank you. There was a discussion regarding the biodiversity through the chair. Sorry. There was a discussion on page 18 of biodiversity and natural assets planning open house event. And there was some discussion with the committee regarding when the open house would be held. Would it be concurrent with recommendations from staff, or would this be before or after? And what we discussed at the meeting was it doesn't make a lot of sense to have the discussion of the public hearing or the open house after everything's complete. We want the comments from the public within that package. And so the question was when to hold the open house. And I think you were at the meeting when we were talking about it, and it's too bad that wasn't conveyed to the committee, because then they wouldn't have this question. But the open house, the intent was it to be happen either concurrently, but preferably before. So all of that information from the public participants could be included in the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That's adopted, or received. The motion's adopted. So the next minutes are the April 29, 2026 Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee draft minutes.
Move receipt.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Shukin,
Second.
seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any discussion? All in favor? Great, that's approved as well. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the Metchosin Environmental Advisory Select Committee proposal on dark skies. And you'll see, if you look in the agenda package, you'll see the recommendation from the committee. It's item 8A. Sorry, item 6A. And you'll also, Council, you'll also have seen in my Councillor's update some commentary about this. So Metchosin, as we heard from Ted White earlier, has a dark sky policy that governs district properties. And we have got that for reasons of protecting the night sky, minimizing impact on wildlife, and allowing for the pleasant and secure enjoyment of Metchosin residents and visitors. Last year, we adjusted the lights on the municipal hall, thanks to the CAO, so they're compliant with as dark sky fixtures. The same occurred at the Metchosin Community Hall. So in keeping with our interest in a healthy environment and human health and light touch regulation, MEASC was interested in putting forward a recommendation that we seek designation under the dark sky community, as a dark sky community with Dark Sky International. And we'd seen notes previously from Ted White and have been shared with us, and we'd commented earlier about that. It seemed the proposal didn't go anywhere, and then recently the committee had been approached by local resident V.O. Mitchell asking if we would pick this up again. And so we put it on our agenda and heard more about it and thought this would be a reasonable thing to do. The idea is to declare or seek designation of our entire community, not just the municipal grounds, as dark sky interested. And the notion is that we would work through the certification with Dark Sky International and through education rather than regulation, build the interest in the community about keeping Metchosin as it is now or has been a dark sky community. So something to rally around. Now there's a couple of pieces of course, so the motion itself that we were proposing is to do that, and MEASC would work on that with other volunteers as they're interested. And excuse me, we received some correspondence this evening from one letter, just to reference it, from Sherry Rourke earlier today, and she lays out some history of the Healthy Communities Advisory Select Committee working on the topic. And my read of the letter is to say that her concern is that this would take a lot of staff time and be an expensive proposition and ongoing regulation. That document is followed by a note from Mr. White, also in the pinks, where he lays out his understanding and MEASC's understanding that actually the dark sky policy that we have in place now meets the requirements of the regulatory side of the Dark Sky International. And then the other work that is done or would be done together is the whole idea of events and educational initiatives to bring this to the community and the interest of all of us to diminish light pollution for our own health and for the health of the wildlife. So that's what it's about. And I wonder if there are any questions about that, and then maybe we could entertain a motion. Or we'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, through the chair, I have some questions. I'm just wondering, when this was brought to the MEASC, was there any opportunity, or did the chair of the MEASC committee reach out to the chair of the Healthy Communities? So there was that cross hybridization between colleagues, since the Healthy Communities had spent a considerable amount of time on this at the time. I remember our councillor that was the liaison to that. I remember her speaking at this. I think the goals are really laudable, but I'm just wondering, was there conversations between the chair or yourself and the council liaison to get the different perspectives? Because really what we have is two letters here that are sort of diametrically opposed on some of the understanding regarding this. Thank you.
Yes. No, I think our understanding was that the Healthy Communities Advisory Select Committee had decided not to continue the work on it. And I believe it came to either council or committee of the whole, Mayor, where you spoke about getting this going again. And so it seemed, let's do that. And then we heard from Ted White, who was on the committee at the time, with his proposal. And so we're not, and then of course, the chair of the Healthy Communities Advisory Committee is telling us here that I think she's saying that referring the matter to MEASC would therefore not only better align with the nature of the proposal itself, but may also allow council to benefit from the existing knowledge base within MEASC. And I think your point is it didn't really fit with healthy communities. And I do recall Councillor Epp reporting to us that they didn't think the spending the money was worthwhile.
Yeah, that's right. I would suggest that the chairs reach out to each other. I think that would be respectful, and also they might glean something else from the chair and the Committee of Healthy Communities, since they had spent a considerable amount of time discussing this.
Thank you. Councillor Shukin.
I'm prepared to support the motion. If it goes ahead, it might be appropriate for you, sorry, not if it goes ahead, it might be appropriate for you, Councillor Gray, to make the motion. I'm able to second.
Certainly. So I'll make the motion that the committee recommend to council apply for a dark sky community designation, direct the application be prepared by members of MEASC working with the Dark Sky International for submission back to council for approval, and that the district pay the one-time $250 US application fee from the 2026 MEASC budget. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any further discussion? Very little.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is really laudable. And when we first spoke to Mr. White about it, we were all in agreement that there was significant impact, not only to the environment, to the wildlife, and we wanted to see this happen. I'm just worried a little bit, not too worried, about the financial implications of this in terms of how much staff time this is going to take, how much resources that's going to be involved in this. I think it's a laudable thing to pursue. I'm wondering if we have the actual time. Practically, do we have the time in this term to tackle this? But my questions are, there's the fee for sure, but we want to make sure we set this committee up for success, as Councillor Donaldson often says. And are there going to be significant or even other financial implications to the district, or is there a requirement of staff to contribute in terms of labor? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Donaldson.
Could you answer those questions?
Yeah, this is meant to be a effort undertaken by volunteers, and both on the committee and otherwise. And the kinds of things that would happen would be photocopying of some posters. For example, you may have seen the ones that Vio Mitchell copied on her own and placed around the community on mailboxes. There may be some events in the evening where we would be talking about the dark sky. We probably will include it as something at our MEASC booth on Metchosin Day. So those kinds of things. I don't expect to expend any staff time actually, or much financial need at all. MEASC has a budget of $500 per year. We'll spend roughly $340, I think, on this, and still have money remaining that we could put to the purposes of photocopying sheets and that kind of thing. Otherwise, I imagine we'll use individuals in the community would use social media and other means of communication.
Okay,
I'm
terrific.
not overly concerned about
Thank you.
finances or staff. Thank you. Councillor Donaldson.
Oh, thank you very much for the discussion. Recently, we were looking at reserves, and there's substantial funds in the climate reserve. I'm not saying that that's we should just rush off and spend a bunch of money, but I do appreciate the suggestions of certainly collaborating with health communities if they're past information. Ms. Rourke's letter is very extensive. Mr. White has great knowledge on this, of course, and so that's good information going forward. The one thing that's always really valuable in our experience here at the table of all the committees that we've been on and within our community is awareness. So education, whether it's articles in the Metchosin News, suggestions, as you have said already, Councillor Gray, with MEAS doing some volunteer work. A lot of those string lights are everywhere in Metchosin. I have some, but they're still in my boxes. I do like dark skies, but so an education of what light does to a community like ours, and in looking at a recent grant application for the school to get lighting for accessibility, that is something, again, we would look at, making sure it's shaded properly so that the light is down and not up into the sky. So education is very key for our residents, and there's a lot of new people that are moving here or visiting and staying, and so for them to understand, I think that's always helpful to have that information shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I recall one pretty decent article by Ted White in the Muse already, and he's got, I think, 1 or 2 more articles to go. They'll need to be paced out over time, of course, but the idea is just to encourage the kind of activity. Mayor Little.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask, is the intent, so we've got a policy and there's this plaque on the wall, is the intent to move forward with a bylaw? Because that would certainly entail staff time, because a policy is really a suggestion to citizens to contain their light, not directly affect their neighbors with light, and all the parameters around that, but it's a policy. Is the intent to move this to a bylaw, which would mean everybody will have to comply?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
The notion here is to encourage people to get lights that are pointed down and not up into the sky. That people might celebrate the notion of a dark sky community and enjoy that feature in our community. But it's one of education, celebration, that sort of thing, not regulation. Are we ready for the question? So, all in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the April 29, 2026 Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee meeting recommendation regarding Royal Roads University student research. So I think you can see the recommendation on page 20 of the agenda package.
Yeah, I'd like to move that. Oops, I'm sorry.
Could I want to apologize to the committee because there is maybe not a full package of information, but I wanted to just walk through what Mr. DiCarlo is proposing. Now, there's some confusion on my part because I thought we had sort of opened the door to research with Royal Road students at one of our previous meetings, and Mayor Little was asked to write a letter, which was done, and Royal Roads has responded as well. So this is a research project that came to us a number of months ago, weeks ago, or whatever. So PAAC would like to see this move along, and I'll just give you a quick summary if I could, and then we can take it from there. So the research question from Mr. DiCarlo is, how may plant composition and associated ecosystem services, habitat quality, and stormwater management change with further regional development and climate change? So he'd be looking at the bufferland with this in relation to stormwater that's coming. So, and basically he notes that plant composition indicates the naturalness or intactness of an area and the ability to support various wildlife and other fauna. And so plant composition also influences other services such as water infiltration and runoff. So that's some of the core elements to his research. So what he's going to do is he's going to quantify and plant diversity hotspots in the bufferland. He's going to identify structural, biological, and physical ecosystem components, and then he's going to evaluate the sensitivity of habitat quality. So he's going to be on the ground ideally this summer, and ideally wrap up his research by the end of July. This will all be done in a very non-invasive way, and there will be no cost to the district. So that is what I've got for you. I'm supportive of it. If there's a request for more information before we vote, I will try and accommodate that. But that's where we're at right now. So,
Any other questions? I guess I had one, Councillor Shukin, and that was, what would the staff involvement actually be? Just to tell them where the location is, or is there more to it than?
I would see no staff involvement other than giving the okay to move ahead with the research, and any other, whether there's a letter that needs to be signed or waiver or whatever. So,
Excellent, thank you. Mayor Little.
Yeah, that was embodied in the body of the text back from the Royal Roads University. So the major question to staff would have been insurance. Within the letter, she states that all students would have insurance from the university.
Thank you.
for your consideration, that the committee recommend that Mr. DiCarlo's research be given approval to proceed, and that council direct staff to coordinate next steps. So,
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Shukin and seconded by Mayor Little. Any other discussion? Councillor Donaldson.
I just want to comment that this is, I am pleased to see that this is the second time first time officially, but second time we've had students interested in going into the bufferland. This was one of the recommendations that came out of the bufferland working group when they were putting together their big report for us as to uses and values of studying the various ecosystems within the green space. So I think this is going to be a value for our community as well. Thank you.
Yeah, nice to see this moving along. Mayor Little.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for that, Councillor Donaldson. The letter that was sent was to the president of Royal Roads, and it was actually a broad invitation, even though this student is from the environmental management, I think, faculty. So it was a broad invitation for research collaboration between the District of Metchosin with the Bufferlands and Royal Roads University.
Yes, and we've also heard from, I think I mentioned at another meeting, the CRD Invasive Species Group are interested in putting people in touch with some researchers at UVic. So there's lots of interest in the bufferland from the academic side, which is a nice follow-up to the working group's advice and recommendations. Well, hearing all of that, maybe I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you, that's approved. So moving to the next item on our agenda, number 7.11. Bufferland Title Review, Park Dedication, and Section 219 Covenant. We've got a report here and lots of material. And I think this evening we have with us Ms. Johnson, who's our planner, and she has a few words to say. But before she begins, I want to thank her for the work. The document is complete and very clear, and that's much appreciated. Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Good evening. The purpose of the report on the agenda tonight is to provide a title review and identify title-related actions, and to seek council direction on the proposed park dedication bylaw and the draft Section 219 covenant that have been prepared to support long-term protection of the bufferland. As part of the review of the registered charges on title, staff have identified a number of charges that no longer reflect current conditions and are recommended to be released or discharged. These include expired development permit notations, historic covenants, and a stormwater-related easement and covenant. The stormwater easement and covenant was registered in 2017, and it allows for the possibility of stormwater infrastructure on the bufferland. There has been an updated and approved stormwater management plan in July 2025 for the Center Mountain residential lands that confirms that all stormwater infrastructure will be located within the city of Langford and no works are proposed within the bufferland. The district's consultant engineer has reviewed this plan and confirms that they have the plan adequately proves that the works being proposed will prevent any increased flows or adverse effects to Metchosin Creek. Since the easement and covenant are no longer required for their original purpose, it is also recommended that this be discharged prior to park dedication. And where council provides authorization as per the options under the title related actions within the staff report, staff will proceed with the release and discharge of these identified charges. And if any of these aren't authorized to proceed for release or discharge, they will be added as carve-outs. They will be added into the finalized park dedication bylaw. Next slide. This slide summarizes the proposed park dedication bylaw for council's consideration. The purpose of the bylaw is to formally dedicate the bufferland as park for environmental protection and conservation purposes. The draft bylaw provides for permitted uses that are primarily focused on conservation and ecological management, as well as low impact public access. This includes the ability to construct and maintain trails, fencing, signage, informational or educational displays, and other related public access features. It also allows for the ongoing operation and maintenance of the existing stormwater monitoring station, and it provides the carve-outs to protect the existing charges on title. The draft bylaw includes provisions that provide flexibility, and this is in section 3.2A and 3.2C of the draft bylaw. Section 3.2A allows for the possibility of future municipal infrastructure, such as utilities or any sort of transportation related works, should they ever be required, making parking lot, but maybe not. Section 3.2C provides broader authority for council to undertake additional park related works consistent with other district bylaws. So these provisions have been included to balance long-term protection of the park with operational flexibility. And so council, they may choose to retain these sections as drafted, or they can be revised or removed if a more restrictive conservation-only approach is preferred. The slide summarizes the proposed Section 219 covenant. In the covenant, the district will be the landowner and the enforcing authority, and the covenant proposes to restrict the use of the lands to park and conservation and environmental purposes only. It prohibits subdivision or development unless specifically approved by the district, and it includes protections for natural features and watercourses. It also includes requirements to ensure that the lands and any associated trails are maintained. This covenant acts as a long-term safeguard in case the ownership of the lands were ever to change, and the restrictions would remain registered on title regardless of who the owner is, and this is what ensures the long-term use of the lands as park and maintains the environmental protection objectives. This slide summarizes the next steps. The first step relates to title cleanup activities prior to park dedication. The next step is finalizing the park dedication bylaw and bringing the bylaw back for consideration of first, second, and third reading, along with a finalized Section 219 covenant. And following council readings, staff would complete the administrative requirements prior to final adoption, and this includes providing notice to the holders of the registered charges on title and finalizing registration of the covenant. And once that is complete, the bylaw would return to council for final adoption to formally dedicate the lands as park for environmental protection and conservation purposes. And following park dedication, there are future planning considerations, and these include land use planning amendments, as well as park management planning. And these are explained within the staff report. And then at that time, council can also consider entering into operating agreements with society for stewardship, maintenance and other park works if so desired. So in the report, the options are structured into two parts. The first part is options related to title-related actions, and these are all the recommended options here. And the second part is council has options for the draft park dedication bylaw and draft section 219 covenant options. That concludes my presentation tonight, and the district's consulting engineer, Bruce Crawshaw, is also here tonight. Should there be any questions related to the stormwater and the easement covenant that's recommended to be discharged. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Johnson. This is great to see all this material. It's kind of exciting to think we'll potentially make some next moves on the bufferland. Excuse me. I read in the news the other day that Langford did something similar, a park dedication to convert 209 acres to dedicated different parcels of land, but I think using the same legislative tools. So it's nice to see that. They're a little bit ahead of us, I guess, but we'll hopefully catch up quick. I had some questions, but I wonder if other people do around the table. Councillor Shukin.
So, through you, Councillor Gray, Ms. Johnson, thank you very much for your report. And I just want to note that there are two people here, Ms. Boover and Mr. Smurfett, who worked on the Bufferland Working Group, and so they've been waiting a long time to see progress like this. So thank you very much. Councillor Donaldson as well was on the committee. Question, you seem pretty optimistic that the charges on title can be lifted, but I think that sort of there's a two to tango kind of thing. So the other party has to be open to doing that, or it depends?
Through the chair, the other party is open to it as well. It's all mutual agreed.
Excellent work. Mind if I ask one more question? So thank you. You flagged section 3.2 in the bylaw that allows for, future transportation use, utility use by the district or whatever. I can see the sense of it, just not closing options down in the future. But how would you see that relating to the covenant document as well, which is going to be more restrictive, it seems to me, in terms of land use and all that?
Through the chair, the bylaw and the covenant work together. And so how they are written, they are mutually working together. So there's no contradiction of either sort. So if there is a need, the district needs to put some sort of utility in there, maybe a second stormwater monitoring station, for example, that would be allowed in the covenant as well.
Thank you. And others? Okay. Mayor Little?
Thank you through the chair, Ms. Johnson. This is really spectacular because we heard at the beginning of the term, certainly in the last election, that there needed to be something done with the buffer lands for protection and conservation. So thank you for your reports, and congratulations to Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Shukin for really shepherding this through the community with their engagement sessions and their input. And I just wanted to ask a specific question about that section 219. There's always a worry that in future years another council might be more pro to a different sentiment that is felt at the current time. And I'm just wondering if you could outline how difficult is it to remove that that covenant if there was a change in council and a change in heart. I'm just looking for a little bit of assurances for especially for those people that live along the border of the buffer land. Thank you.
Through the chair, right now the highest level of protection is through the bylaw itself. So it's through the park dedication bylaw, and under Section 30 of the Community Charter, it's very difficult to remove that protection. You need approval of the electors to do that. So let's say the next council decides to remove the covenant, that protection is still remaining. It's still a park for environmental and conservation purposes. That just extra layer of protection, should the land be sold, would have been removed. But the bylaw still, the protection is still in place.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair, there were some suggestions earlier on that we needed to also involve another society, like Habitat Acquisition Trust, to slap another covenant on it, so you'd have, if that's the highest level, even more protections given the importance of this, and not only to this council but to the neighborhood. Would you suggest that we pursue that as well, an additional measures from a society, or not needed at this time? Thank you.
Through the chair, it's not needed at this time, but should council in the future want to have a relationship with a conservation society, and through those discussions they would like to enter into another covenant, lots of times they have their own templates. What would be looked at is ensuring that the covenant is consistent with the bylaw, the park dedication bylaw, and the general purpose of it. Or there's entering into a operating agreement for stewardship of the land. So there is options if you want to explore it in the future. But at this point in time, there's enough protection through the bylaw.
Oh, thank you, through the chair. That's excellent.
Thanks. So I had a couple of questions. One is very similar to Mayor Little's. When I read the note, it says that the purpose of the covenant is to restrict what can and cannot be done on the land should the land ever be sold. And so I guess I'm concerned that without another covenant member, we're agreeing with ourselves to protect the land in the event of a sale. And so we could unwind that without consequence. In other words, a future council could nullify this covenant quite easily. I guess my preference is to have a third party, another party involved to kind of lock this down. Does that make sense? Or why would you say not at this time if we're setting it up? Why wouldn't we do it now? Or is it okay if we could direct you to do that?
Through the chair, if that's what council wishes. It was just more of to prevent the delay of the park dedication bylaw process. If you wanted to look into entering into another covenant with another conservation society concurrently with the park dedication bylaw process, it would delay the process. Or if it's something you want to do after the park dedication bylaw, then if that's something that council would like to direct staff.
Yes, I was thinking if they weren't dependent, we'd proceed with the park dedication and then do a covenant but involving a third party. If that was doable, I think that would be my preference, and perhaps others, I'm not sure.
Yeah, through the chair, staff would just need, it would be finding that third party, I guess.
I'm thinking the BC Parks Foundation, the mayor's mentioned Habitat Acquisition Trust, there may be others. Okay, well,
Yeah,
I think you've given an answer to our questions. I had a different question. which was the, in the document, it's mentioned the stormwater Upper Metchosin Creek station is not functioning. And you may not know about that, but I thought that stormwater monitoring station was needed to collect baseline data as the development up on Center Mountain occurred, so we could see what the flows were like. I wonder what the plans are for repair or how long it's been out of service.
Through the chair, the repair is being discussed currently. It's in motion. So Metchosin is working with a company called Flowworks to update the existing monitoring station on the Upper Creek. The equipment has become outdated due to upgrades of the various cellular networks. However, the City of Langford has a station downstream on Nield Road, and their station is working, so they can provide the data. So that data logger of that monitoring station is continuous, and it can be analyzed at any time. I can pass you off to the district consultant engineer for more detail on that should you need it.
I think that answers the question. I'm just concerned if it had been out of service for a long time, we might be missing the data we have talked about needing previously. Maybe a small technical question. I see we're talking about removing the covenants EX2189 and EG44432. Didn't council already authorize that?
Through the chair, that was on the neighboring lands, on the Center Mountain residential lands.
Very good. Thank you. That helps. I think those are the questions that I had. There's a few small typos I can talk to you about later. They're nothing too major. Any other thoughts or questions?
Yeah, through the chair, not a question, but I just wanted to comment that I want to see this proceed without delay. I want to get it done. And so if that means we have to wait to engage a third party, so be it. I think it's more important that we get it done. Thank you.
So I think we're ready. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
And I would echo that as well. I think there will be time to engage a third party and maybe, learn what they can bring to this situation that we've got here, and maybe do it with a sense of calmness as opposed to the urgency in trying to get this done before the end of the term. So, yeah.
I guess we're starting the discussion, but would anyone like to move the first set of motions? And they're titled on our agenda package, the title-related actions.
Sure, I'm happy to.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
That the committee recommend the council receive the findings of the review of registered charges affecting the bufferland as outlined in the report. I think, we can do all of them? Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
So.
And that council authorize the mayor and CAO to execute Form C, release to discharge and release historic covenants EX2189EG and EG44432 and expired DP notations FB466313 and FB466314 from the bufferland legally described as Lot A, Section 93, Metchosin District Plan, EP 69605, Section 94, 96, and 108. Okay, and that council authorized the mayor and CAO to execute the Form C release for the stormwater easement and covenant CA 5867519 and CA 5867520 from the bufferland legally described, and we've done the legal description already. And finally, that council authorized the release to discharge stormwater covenant FB 512568 modified by CB 1293393 from lots 1 to 34, sections 93 and 94, and then again the legal description as well. So moved.
And I will second all four of those motions.
Thank you. So moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any further discussion? I had one question, actually, Mayor Little, Councillor Shukin. When we raised this before, the CAO came forward and said we should release these covenants. I think it was the stormwater and stormwater easement and the covenant. I guess the position that you guys took was that we needed to hear from the city of Langford. They need to come and give us a presentation. And the CEO advised us that evening that our engineers were fine with it. Has anything changed? Are you happy now that we're good enough without any response from Langford or the company involved?
So for me, the big thing is the stormwater detention pond and associated infrastructure is not going in the bufferland. It isn't. What I understand is it's now in the city of Langford. There are some ongoing questions that, I think the community may have in time, but in terms of what's going on Metchosin property, that is not in play anymore. So with that, I'm actually satisfied and able to move on here.
Mayor Little?
Yes. It seems to me, excuse me. It seems to me that you want additional reassurances about the stormwater management plan and whether the detention pond, as Councillor Shukin mentioned, is indeed in Langford. Is that what you're trying to tease out? Would you like perhaps the engineer could give that reassurance to you?
No, I was reassured when we discussed it previously. It was rather, I think, yourself and Councillor Shukin who opposed releasing the covenants. And so I'm just curious if you're happy with it now, if we're good to go. I think it would be good for us, as we do this, then we'd be in touch with Langford and say, we don't need you to come and do a presentation. We don't need the company to come and do the presentation, which we'd asked of them before, just so that we let go that kind of requirement we put in front of them as a council. And if you guys are good to go, then great. I just want to make sure you're realizing we had that back and forth earlier about our best approach. I'm satisfied as our engineer is satisfied. Yes.
Yes, through the chair, perhaps we can ask the planner to comment on that in terms of the stormwater. We rely on staff to give us expert opinions, and that's what we're relying on. I have no concerns if the planner and the engineer have no concerns.
Thank you. Great. Are we ready to?
Could we hear from her?
Oh, certainly.
Please.
Ms. Johnson.
And through the chair, the district's consulting engineer and planner, where we don't have any further concerns with what's being recommended tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll call the question. All in favor? That's approved. Thank you. The second set of recommendations are related to the park dedication bylaw and section 219 covenant, and as an option 1 and an option 2. Would somebody like to move one or the other option?
Sure.
Councillor Donaldson.
I would like to move option 1, that the committee of the whole recommend that A, that council receive the staff report, and B, that council direct staff to bring forward the park dedication bylaw for first, second, and third readings, and the section 219 covenant for execution following completion of the registered charge releases authorized by council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion? So a moment ago, we were talking about the issue of whether or not we should involve a third party. And my preference is that we do that. I don't see it slowing down. In fact, I think when it goes too fast, you do something that maybe doesn't stand the test of time. And so I just wonder if we could hear again the idea. I'm coming back to you, Ms. Johnson. If we don't involve a third party at this point in time, then the council, this council or future council could remove the covenant with a simple vote at the council table.
Through the chair, not exactly. It would be, I think, if council would like to have a third party involved, I think it would actually be easier after the land has been dedicated as park through bylaw, section 30 of the community charter, because then it's a park for the reasons that's stated in the bylaw. And then I think that's just how you approach it, and you have your reasons for partnering with the third party, whether it be further stewarding of the land, or potentially the third party has different funding that they could bring to the buffer lands that would support the reasons in the bylaw. But I think there could be more discussion about that after. But I don't. If there's no partner with a third party at this point in time, it doesn't harm the bylaw or the purpose tonight.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I think one point too that probably comes up in that whole process is it might be a little tricky interesting someone in putting a covenant on the buffer land, which doesn't suggest a conservation purpose. In other words, the title of the piece of property, if it were called the Metchosin Creek Conservation Area or some other name reflecting its importance to us in terms of what the covenants are doing, then maybe that's a better time as well to engage with other organizations that might help us out in that regard. Great, thank you very much for answering the question. Are there any other questions, or should we move to the vote? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thanks, that's passed. Thanks very much for your work. Okay, the next item on our agenda is under Finance 7.2.1, Firehall Project Options Review. And we have a report here and a recommended motion. I wonder if, I guess I would just say that we've got a motion that just to say what it is, Committee of the Whole recommend Council direct staff to obtain proposals. Thank you.
Can you tell us which,
direct staff.
what page this is on the agenda?
It's 7.2.1. That's page 79, if that helps. The motion is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council direct staff to obtain proposals from qualified consultants to help identify next steps in the proposed new Firehall project. And I'll just comment that the later in our agenda item 8A, we have a proposal from some qualified consultants to identify next steps to the Firehall project. Mr. Payat, would you like to introduce the topic? Thank you.
Okay, thanks through the chair. To the committee and to the general public. Council previously had asked that staff provide information on how to best resource additional scenarios, planning, community needs analysis, and options analysis for the Firehall project. And great minds think alike. The report is here tonight, and of course we got another proposal from the 4 professionals. So we're all here together to move this along and be transparent to the public for sure. So everyone had a chance to read the report, so I don't have to reread it, but I believe these paragraphs I've highlighted might summarize the additional planning and options analysis, what I'm proposing is to do a feasibility study review, including all additional data collected to date, as well as comments from the open house that we had in November, and identify gaps, inconsistencies with a lens of a business case, justification, and look at any gaps. So a gaps analysis, and that would help the community be informed of next steps, answer specific questions regarding the justification of costs and comparison to other fire stations. And under the community needs assessment, to help address the community needs assessment with regard to proposed fire station, a service level review could be undertaken to better understand the level of fire service being delivered to the community today with an eye on the future. There are some bullets regarding the service level review, but I believe the final bullet summarizes that the service level review would go a long ways to help with the future design of the fire hall. So it would not be a bad idea to get moving on some of this actionable review and data collection. Grant announcement will be August of this year. It's only a few months away. We have talked about project management. We've talked about the steering committee. I recommended that we review the steering committee terms of reference and consider a task force scenario. I think that working with Mr. Smurfit and his team through the task force concept would be valuable. There'd be transparency regarding public involvement, and we could get a lot of professional advice through the task force. I still think we should consider a project management consultant for objectivity through the process. We're talking about millions of dollars in this project. A few $1,000s to secure a project manager as soon as possible would potentially save us money in the long run. Yeah, so project management, sooner we can get going, the better. Regardless of if we receive grant money or not, we need to consider rebuilding portions of the building and renovating other portions. Any work that project management and the task force can get done ahead of time would be valuable information regardless of success with grant money or not. We have spent a few months here considering all the options. Tonight would be an exceptionally good time to move ahead on some action as council sees fit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Payette. Councillor, excuse me.
So thank you to Mr. Payette. Councillor Gray, I have a few comments to make. I don't know if you want to
Certainly
launch into discussion right now, but obviously the fire hall discussion has been controversial, adversarial. What was interesting though and inspiring is that the four of us came together at the meeting in March and moved ahead with the resolution that has brought this report. But one thing I just want to note though, I feel there is consensus on the building itself. I think there's consensus on a recognition that there's a need to replace the administrative building and the sleeping quarters building. I think people are on side with that. I think there is also recognition that there are deficiencies in the apparatus bay, thinking about seismic resiliency, vehicle space, ventilation, decontamination, and gear storage, stuff like that. And also consensus about cost, that addressing all of this is going to be costly and we have to move ahead with care. So I think that there is consensus on those points. Where there is disagreement is how to spend the resources that we have, where to make the investments. So again, we've talked about a full rebuild, we've talked about rebuilding the admin sleeping quarters building, and maybe something that we haven't yet come to. Again, consensus on certain points for sure. What I think we have to do, my own sense of what we have to do to move ahead, is three things. We should conduct a needs analysis that looks at our current and future fire rescue service and understand how that relates to the fire hall and future work. So Mr. Payette has that in his plan. And key question is, we need to make sure we're right sizing the project. So Councillor Gray, you addressed this in September, and yeah, it's back here, and I think we should proceed with that. Second thing is, we should move ahead with an experienced project manager to help us regroup and organize us as we move ahead. I will say personally, I am supportive of the offer from Mr. Cry and the other three individuals, Mr. Smurfett being among them. I'd welcome their involvement, but I believe they would all be aided if we had a project manager involved as well. And there's a few reasons for that I can get into later. But the other thing is, we need a handle on our costs. And whatever emerges as the project, and there are some questions about what the project is before us, but we need to work together to understand costs and ideally bring these down, and we'll do that by working together. I have some more specific motions that I might throw out to forward this, but I just wanted to make those initial comments. The one thing I think we cannot do is do nothing. The do nothing option has cost us. Way back, maybe when, I don't know, in the 1980s, when there was no action, in the mid-90s, when the admin building was left off in terms of the go-ahead. After that as well, when we knew that there were deficiencies in the admin building and we did not act. Like, all of this has cost us, and if we don't move ahead now with some form of action, it is going to continue to cost the community. So thank you for your indulgence. Again, three things: the needs assessment, project manager, and getting a handle on the costs. So thank you.
Thank you. That's helpful. I guess the other thought that I was having was that it's pretty cool, as Mr. Pyatt's mentioned, to have a community-centered volunteer group coming forward who have some expertise to help out. And the advantage we have there is they don't have the same need to get up to speed. A relatively low-risk approach, but move the project forward, as you're suggesting. And I think the idea of a technical team or task group to work with this under the CEO makes sense. You know, to engage. But I guess I might think, well, how about get this group going and then leave it to our CEO to say, okay, I need now to have somebody to review what they've done and make sure the objective assessment, make sure that it's quality that he needs to before coming back to council with whatever report they put together. It's very efficient use of the resources at hand and less overall cost at this juncture, but being sure that we have, whether one calls a project manager or some kind of expert to come in and maybe could work that out with this technical team or task group. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, and I appreciate Councillor Shukin giving us a summary of his points, and do nothing is where I'd like to address. So for the last 6 months, we have done nothing. And there are a lot of questions and things that I think out of the points that Councillor Shukin is saying that still need to be unraveled a little bit to find out which direction we're going in, whether it is a full build, building just the admin, upgrading other parts of the other building, or what it is. We don't really have, or it hasn't become clear what direction we're actually going in. We had the last time this subject was brought forward was a public engagement November 12th with approximately 80 people out of the 5,600 that live here. So clearly we got some more work to do in that regard, but looking at this report, which is got a lot of detail in it and cites a lot of things that we still need to work through. It appears that the tech team is also thinking along the same lines. And with some of the stuff that they've looked at or has sort of suggested, I think, is things like looking at other fire halls and whatnot on Vancouver Island. I'm reminded of a conversation of a community up North Island with people in Comox area who want to build a fire hall. The question was, why are we not just building what Dashwood Fire Hall did? And in actual fact, Comox is using that template, but will adjust it according to the needs of their department. And each department has a little bit different needs. We spend, and when I say we, a lot of these departments on the island that are being built spend a lot of money on consultants. So to take an already made plan and adapt it seems quite feasible. And in this community, and I think it was pretty clear with what Mr. Smurfett was saying, the taxpayers that are here right now paying and our future taxpayers, how much of a burden are we prepared to put onto them? So again, something that we could create to live within our means. We do have funds in the bank without stripping all of our reserves. But somebody with more time to be able to flush that out for us would be very helpful. It's not something that has been clear yet. So I'd like to see as the CAO says, a task force, as well as engaging in this volunteer group of 4 men who have some specialty, being able to go through all of our documents. We've spent significant sum of money on consultants, JDA, Skyline, Rizik, and the other company which escapes me, which is to do with hazmat. This has been going on since the beginning of 2022, if not maybe earlier. So not to continue doing nothing, but yeah, the time is now. We need to do something to put a project manager ahead of some of this stuff. I think we need to collate the information that we have. That would be a place that I'd like to start. And I'll stop there before I make further comments. I'd like to hear what my other colleagues have to say.
Mayor Little.
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate both of your comments. And what's outstanding to me is that based on our needs analysis, we've got to be absolutely fiscally prudent moving forward. And it was a reminder of what the CEO said, that this is a multi-million-dollar project, and we need to be extremely careful with our taxpayers' dollars. And so engaging a project manager, which will be thousands of dollars, could save potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is often what you hear when projects go off the guardrail. There's not a project manager, and there's not sufficient communications there. We can also, this is also very timely, that this report is coming through here. I just attended the opening of the new Crest building. Councillor Epp was the council liaison for Crest, and now Councillor Shukin is the liaison. And we attended the opening of this Crest Center. So just as a reminder, that's the organization that maintains the emergency communications equipment and the infrastructure for more than 50 emergency services around the region. And they've built this building. It cost 17 million, 3 million for the land, total price of 20 million, 14,000 square feet. It is post-seismic or post-disaster BC building and work safe standard compliant. If you've noticed in the Times Colonist, they had a brilliant article, Mr. Duffy titled it, "When Everything Else Fails, This New Langford Building Has to Work." And I think we can apply that to Metchosin, that when everything else fails around us, when there is a seismic event, that this new fire hall that we have has to work, because that is what is going to save us in an emergency. But top of mind is the financial implications for this. I think we need to move forward, as Councillor Shukin has been repeatedly advocating for a project manager. And I also, since we're on the topic, appreciate the individuals who brought forward their information and their expertise to our attention. And I think it's very poignant what one of our community members said, Ellen Frisch said, that transparency builds trust and knowledge builds trust. And when you can meld them together, that's when you're going to have success. And I think that transparency piece, as the CAO mentioned, is really important here. And with the task force, with combining the expertise of the individuals that have brought forward their technical briefing, with all of that in an open and transparent way, I think that's the key to success, and I thank them for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Donaldson, you had a motion?
Yes. I'd like to motion option number 2, or the spirit of option number 2, that the committee of the whole refer the report back to staff. Is that how we got it here? Asking the CAO to engage with the proposed volunteer Firehall tech team.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Shukin?
Point of order?
Yes?
Yeah, I was wondering if we can hear from our Deputy Corporate Officer, please.
Certainly.
So I just want to clarify that there's a motion on the floor. You didn't the project manager. Were you?
There was no motion.
No motion. Okay.
I still have a point of order.
Yes.
What we're talking about is the CAO's report, right? Further on in the agenda, we're talking about the technical group. I think that you might have been more transparent that you were going to move to option 2. Up till now, the discussion has been about the CAO's report. That was a little bit surprising to me. Were we not? Oh, sorry, I'm confused then. Are we not dealing with 7.2 Firehall project options review?
Yes.
Okay.
And when the CEO was speaking about it, I mentioned we had further in the agenda a proposal, and the CAO mentioned the idea that wouldn't it be good to work together here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Donaldson?
Thank you. One of the, well, I think I explained a little bit earlier, but the purpose to have the CAO engage with the Firehall tech team is so that the tech team can actually review all the documents, put them all together in one place, so that we have a clear direction of where we're going. So then we can actually hire a project manager to take on the next step. That was the point of my motion.
Thank you. Councillor Shukin?
Yeah, so I am supportive of engaging Mr. Correa, Mr. Rivers, and Mr. Smurfett and Mr. Yates. I would like, though, I was hoping that maybe the motion could be a little bit more specific and just mention forthcoming needs analysis and area planning and options analysis. Maybe not, though. But the other thing I was hoping to do tonight was mobilize staff so we could begin to look at the possibility of a project manager, but also most importantly, moving ahead with a firm who can conduct the needs analysis. And I'm not going to make this motion, but what I was going to say earlier is that the CEO provide council with recommendations on a qualified firm to conduct a fire service needs analysis that will inform decisions about the future of the Firehall project, and that those recommendations be provided by May 25th. So I do get Councillor Donaldson's point about working with the group, reviewing the material, and then using that to inform the project manager. But I feel like we can take some additional steps while that is going on. The needs analysis to me, sorry, I'm not trying to jump over your motion,
Okay.
but
I've got more comments.
the needs analysis to me is a very technical project and will require expertise. And there's a firm out based in Kelowna that does this. I would like to turn to someone that has experience with this. And again, this could be going on concurrently while the team of 4 is doing their technical review. So I'll just throw that out. Key thing is I think we can move on some other actions tonight and not just refer it back to council. So
Refer back to council or staff? Staff. Okay, so when I was trying to put it together, it was much, much longer. And so I really shortened it out, and clearly I should have maybe stayed with what I was thinking. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter. Some of the things that I had been thinking of, similar to what you're saying, and maybe we're just a little bit scrambled here, but my goal was that the team be able to, the tech team, review the Firehall project reports and supporting documentation. That's basic. Conduct a gap analysis identifying operational needs versus preferred components. Review a minimum of 3 build options with consideration for fiscal prudence and affordability. Examine comparable fire hall projects within Vancouver Island and similar rural communities. And provide observations and recommendations to council within 90 days to help inform future feasibility and consultant work. Originally, I had considered 60 days, but one of them happens to be away for a significant time. So the 90 days, that would bring us to, I mean, that's pretty much almost the end of summer. So it's, again, breaking that out for the technical team to work through those things, put it into a package, so then we could give it to somebody like a consultant or project manager. And it would be a lot more fulsome. Right now we have books of studies and all that sort of stuff. We have option 1A, which was submitted with the grant, but we haven't looked at other options. We did not, the Firehall Steering Committee didn't have the time to be able to work with through the space analysis as far as discussions go. A lot of things changed this time last year, actually, because this is when the grant was open on the 20th of May and that sort of stuff. So there seems to be a few loose ends. So these were the things that I was thinking that the tech team could actually work on with the CAO and gather the information and then move on to a project manager. So giving a foundational report from their perspective, and they're prepared to do this free, as opposed to us, spending more money on consultants, but have a full package for that person to work with. As the other thing that the CAO had brought up here was a service level review. And we have talked about that in the past as well. I know last year our former chief had reported out on different grading level that we got. So we're very proud of that, because that explained, with having our POCs, that we had the ability to have response time in a grading mechanism. I don't know the appropriate word for it for the language of the fire service, but that does make a difference when it comes to things like our fire insurance and that sort of thing. As far as service level review, that's a little bit more detailed. And yes, you're right, there are people even here on the island that actually do that. Both Colwood and Souk have had service reviews. There are some departments, I think, out further out on the peninsula have, and certainly up island they have as well. So there are, we don't have to go too far afield to find somebody to do that. But that can be separate from, because that's a specialty area, that could be separate from the tech team. But the tech team's got a lot of other stuff that they could package together. Because where we left it in November with the open house, we really have no other discussions and pulling all that information together in one place. The Firehall Steering Committee has been quiet since then, and a few members have left, and we haven't posted those positions because we've been talking about doing a task force as well. So I take your point on that also. So I just wanted to expand a little bit more on that's where it was coming from, is just trying not to get so wordy.
Very little. Hey, got your light on.
Thank you. With respect, all of the documents are on the website, and they have been, all of those. And so I'm wondering which documents you're talking about sending to the technical group, because all of that is out in the open. That's on the website for anybody to see. So I'm just wondering, what is it that you want sent to the technical group that they haven't already had the ability to review and form opinions on and prepare reports? What is it that is missing there that you want to have it done?
Okay, so the biggest things that are missing is we jumped right to option 1A because we were encouraged to apply for a grant, and there was a time factor on that, so that was council supported. And that also came with a price tag of in excess of $20 million. We haven't really explored what the other options are, what the other drawings are. I do recall even being at the open house when residents were asking me of a particular drawing of a building, and I had not seen it before, and it was brought in that day. So there is some information, maybe there is more information. I've not seen it presented myself. So 1A is the one that I'm familiar with. I think most of our community is familiar with, but I've not seen other drawings, or we haven't had any other public engagement, and no other cost analysis done. That's if we were to build one brand new big fire hall. We've not explored other temporary situations. It was $4 million to build a temporary fire hall while the new building was going on. But could we do this with a different approach at our fiscal, being more fiscally prudent and the affordability? We do know that we need to build the admin building. It is beyond aged out. I don't know what happened before 1984 because we've only been incorporated since 1984. So that's the only information that I have. But we all agree that that building needs to be done. As far as the other, do we need to do a complete tear down? I'm not certain that we do. I know there are fire halls right now that's the newest building we have in this community. It's 29 years old. I did a tour of Colwood Fire Department. It's 1977. And I asked them, they have the same width of apparatus base as we do. They actually got the measuring tape up while I was there because
Councillor Doehnel, I just want to bring us back to the motion here.
Yes, sorry. Okay. So what my point is there's lots of information that I don't believe we've uncovered. Yes, I know we have reams of books and binders full of it, but we really only have one price tag and one plan that we've really explored.
Mayor Little, would you like to offer any thoughts about the motion?
I think that all the documents are on the website. I'm a bit confused by how we got to this point when we were talking about the Firehall project options review by the CAO. I know that you quickly moved to a different option. I saw that move, but I'm a bit concerned where we are now. I suspect that was planned.
The Councillor Shu.
Councillor Gray, it'd be great to hear your thoughts on the motion.
I think that it would be great to get our CEO talking to the group who've proposed to pick up some of the work that we talked about. I think the best thing would be to get that rolling. The idea of having a project manager makes sense to me, but I think that probably the best opportunity now would be to have our Mr. Pyatt speak to the technical team and say, look, we've got this, this is a generous offer and we'd like to take you up on it. And then lay out some of these other issues, whether a project manager suits now, or let them get some work done and then bring it forward so that he can then have a project manager, an expert look at it and say, yeah, that's looking good. I'm appreciating where you're at. And then go from there so that we get the work done before we engage somebody who can then review it and say, yep, I'm good, let's go. So just basically move it along. So I'm good with the motion, and you had some other ideas to add to that, and I'd like to hear those as well or follow along. But basically activate our CEO to move forward.
Excuse me, Chair. Could we have Councillor Donaldson provide a copy of the resolution to staff so we can get up on the board?
Just while that's happening, Mr. Pyatt, would that work for you?
Well, I guess a couple of questions I would have would be, would this be a public process in lieu of the steering committee? And the next kind of point would be, you know, like, I don't know if I can say this strongly enough, but every day that we don't have a project manager on board is money that we're throwing out the window in the future.
Thank you. I'm thinking that this would be a process that would be up to you to design, and if you want to use them as a task force that you're meeting with and getting advice from, that makes sense to me. All of it becoming public when you're ready to bring it forward. You know, rather than setting an advisory committee or buffering a working group, a task force that's your response, you know, would be up for you to work with. And that's why I'm thinking to give you the freedom to meet and talk to them and sort out, you know, the best approach that you think is right, and just let us know. Councillor Schuckel.
One of the things that was noted in the proposal from the four individuals, the team of four, I'll call them, is an understanding that they would have to report regularly to council and CAO and others. So I think there's a sense among the group of urgency to get things moving. So, and what we will have to keep our eyes open is whether that is actually fulfilled. And yeah, I do feel like there is a sense of urgency to move ahead. Yeah, whether it's August or October or whatever, but we need to get going here. So.
And I might just add, I think it's reporting to council, but through the CAO, as opposed to coming on their own.
Yeah. Sorry, and I think some of those things are what Mr. Pyatt would, if this motion succeeds, have to work out with a group of four. I will. Ms. Fritsch's point did resonate with me, as well as the possibility of a hybrid solution. So we can also possibly look at that as we go, if we need to. So,
thank you, Mayor Little.
Yeah, I I very much appreciate the 4 individuals for bringing forward. They all have, 3 of them have engineering degrees and 1 has firefighter experience. What I was looking for was for expertise of a structural engineer. And I couldn't tell from their designations which one of them had that structural engineer designation. Usually, and you'll all remember this, whenever we decide to have a committee here or a new group, we go out to the community and say, does anybody want to be involved? Please bring your applications in. We go through the applications and then we select them. And that's how we usually go about things in the process. This is so a little bit like a select committee, but it's behind closed doors. And I go back to that transparency piece that Alan Frisch was talking about, because there's nothing like going outside a process, a lack of transparency that destroys trust and derails things. So if this is like a select committee, for instance, you would need, under the Community Charter 124, you would need a procedure bylaw. You'd need rules for procedures of the majority. You would need an agenda. You would need minutes from that. So all of that has to be out in the open. And so what we're doing now, what you're proposing is something beyond that process. You're suggesting a behind the scenes meeting with our CAO, and I'm wondering if we're putting him in an untenable situation. The decision should be at this table, and I appreciate their willingness to be an advisory board or advisory body to council, but that advice needs to be given in the open meeting. With the public viewing, with the chance for the public to weigh in prior and during the meeting. So we're going outside of our normal process by what you have suggested here, and that gives me some discomfort. That's not saying that these 4 individuals are not exceedingly experienced in their field. I quickly did some searches, and absolutely, and they have some expertise. For instance, we know that Mr. Smurfett has spoken in the last 7 years about his work in Colwood and in Souk, at the city of Colwood and in the district of Souk. And he has worked in that engineering role, and I have no problems with that. I know that Mr. Yates worked for Enbridge in the oil and gas, in the pipeline business. And he was a project manager there, but I don't know anything about his designation. It's that kind of information that would normally come to us, and we would evaluate and then give our recommendations. I don't know a lot about Mr. Rivers. I know that that he spoke at the microphone one night. And I don't think it was positively towards the fire hall and the firefighters, but I can't remember. And so what I'm saying is we're going outside of our usual process here. Usually what we would do is as I've mentioned, we would get the information back, we would make a decision, and all of the discussions and conclusions that would be brought to council would be out in the open, and we don't have any transparency here. This is all going to be behind closed doors with the CAO, and I don't think that's good governance. And we committed to good governance at the beginning of the term, and I do have some concerns here. And again, it's not to say that these individuals don't have the expertise that they say they have. But I'm worried that we're going to put our CAO in an untenable situation. So is this the tail wagging the dog, or the reverse? I'm a little concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. The idea here, I think, is not so much to mirror an advisory select committee, which has the kind of rules that you've described, that reports to council, but actually to provide our CEO with a technical team to do some work, and then he'll come back and tell us how he's done with it. So much of the work that's done by our staff isn't, reviewed by the public all the way through their work. And I don't imagine a project manager would report immediately to council as well. At this point in time, I think we need help in the staff side to get this moving again. And then I'll be looking forward to getting a report that's been put together. But from my perspective, we don't need to see, like making sausage, you don't need to see everything inside before you get the sausage. In this case, I think we heard early on that Mr. Pett was open to the idea of having some support like this, and that would be the notion. Not promising all the nature of an advisory select committee, but rather something different, a task group that's helping the staff get things together to give us some good advice. So that's just a different perspective, and it's okay to have a different look at it, but I think it might work well. Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, thank you. So I take your point, Mayor Little, about the governance aspect. It was a question that came before me as well, because I was trying to wrap my head around it as well. When I read the report, I see there's a goal here. I think this is a great opportunity, as this in the CAO's report, is that he is looking beyond the Firehall Steering Committee with the task force, which is what we had talked about previously. I think it's a sensible and pragmatic approach, this whole report. My suggestion in the motion was to engage with this tech team. I'm not suggesting it be behind closed doors at all. They've also suggested they would report back to council and the CAO. If it means that it has to be organized differently, then maybe it does. I doubt that the tech team would, I don't know actually if the tech team would choose to go that route or not. I think they've just come forward saying this is something they would like to do. My motion is suggesting that they work with the CAO, and then we go from there. We've got it up on the board here now to engage with the proposed tech team. So it's, to work with the CAO for next steps.
Mayor Little.
Yeah, thank you. I was quite excited when I saw the original headline of the report that is further on in our agenda, not this report, the report from this technical team. However, and why I was excited is because what is needed is not only a structural engineer, but we need an accountant, an architect, as well as a firefighter on that. So they've ticked some of the boxes, but not all of them. And that financial piece is not picked up within this technical group. And then the architecture expertise is also not picked up with this group. And to your point, Councillor Donaldson, through the chair, absolutely, they are giving advice to the CAO. They're going to gather that advice behind closed door. Let's not fool ourselves here. They're not going to come to an open meeting. They can't. They don't have an agenda. They won't have minutes. It won't be publicized prior to their meeting to give the public the opportunity to weigh in before and after. So we can't say that this is going to be transparent. This will all happen behind closed doors. And so that's what concerns me. That is not good governance to me. Thank you.
Thank you. So rather than going, back and forth, are there any new points that anyone would like to make?
Just one. When we had the Firehall Steering Committee, there was no reporting out from the subcommittee. There's no minutes from them, and there is nothing documented. So, whereas the Firehall Steering Committee themselves, certainly they have the minutes and they had the discussion and they were open meetings to the public. So it's interesting how some things work for some situations, some things don't for others. So in that case, we didn't end up seeing any minutes from subcommittees. So that would have been helpful. And so I take your point. I can't speak about the tech team because they haven't had any minutes. And so at this point in time, their integrity can't be questioned in that respect. So I do understand your government's.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Shukin.
Specific to the motion,
Thank you.
I wonder if we might add the names of the technical team to the end there, just so we know who we're talking about, or just be more specific about the vote.
I think not. That gets into the question of advisory committee level if we're appointing people, but we can let this. We're just saying with the CEO. My perspective is let the CEO engage with them, and he can. Maybe there should be another member of the team, maybe not. He can work with that and figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I just feel like we should have some linkage to the actual proposal that's here.
The technical team reference.
Well, then maybe capitalize technical team then, if we could. Just thank
Sure.
you. Something like that. Sure.
Mayor Little, something on the motion?
Yeah, that would be an amendment.
To capitalize it?
I'm sorry?
To capitalize it?
No, that would be an amendment. If we could look to our deputy corporate officer, if you wanted to include Councillor Shukin's comments, I think that would be amendment. No? No?
If we capitalize it, within the context, as long as we've got something that ties it back to the letter and all that. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Little.
Yeah, I think I should be given the opportunity to respond to Councillor Donaldson's comments, and through the chair, I wasn't on the Firehall Steering Committee. You were on the Firehall Steering Committee, so it's not my responsibility to ensure that the minutes were. So you were on the Firehall Steering Committee, I wasn't. So you could have at that time asked for the minutes, ask for the discussion, bring that forward. It's very difficult for me to speak. Just a moment, let me finish. It's very difficult for me to speak to a committee that happened, the recommendations when I'm not on the committee. It was you and Councillor Epp that were on the committee, and your function as finance chair was to look after any questions regarding the finances. And so it was up to both.
Excuse me, I think that we should get back to the motion itself. I appreciate your comments. So I think if are there any more comments about the motion itself? Mayor Little.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the CAO now that he's heard our discussion. Does he see a path moving forward in an expeditious way, embracing the expertise of these four gentlemen, and does he see that we can quickly move to where we want to be, which is hiring a project manager and fulfilling some of these? I'm worried this is going to drag on for another.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can I finish? That's a point of order. I think I should be able to finish my comment without you interrupting.
Certainly.
If we could hear from the CAO regarding his comfort level at this time. Can he work with the group, and can we get to what we all want and the community wants, which is a safe post-disaster, post-seismic building that is safe?
So
if we could hear from the CAO, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the question was comfort with the meeting with the group and moving forward with the project manager at the correct time.
Yeah, through the chair. I regularly meet with lots of project managers, lots of consultants, lots of professionals. I'm comfortable with meeting with this team, in the same regard and respect that I would always have with anybody that I meet with on a day-to-day basis. I would look forward to that. And I do believe that we need to get moving on an objective project manager to help us through the steps as we move ahead as quickly as possible. Do I think engaging with the team ahead of time would be of value? Perhaps. If we can move quickly and we can have conversations that we can bring to council in a fairly, couple of weeks would be great, with ideas and proposals and value-added discussion, I think would be fantastic.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you.
So I think I'm ready to call the question. The motion is, as written up here, that the committee recommend council direct the CAO to engage with the proposed volunteer Firehall technical team. All in favor? Thank you. That's approved.
Councillor Gray,
Yes,
I'd like to
Councillor
make a motion, please, that the CAO provide council with recommendations only on a qualified firm to conduct a fire service needs analysis that will inform decisions about the future of the Firehall project, and that such recommendations be provided to council as soon as possible. So moved.
Can you repeat?
Thank you.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Sure. That the CAO provide council with recommendations on a qualified firm to conduct a fire service needs analysis that will inform decisions about the future of the Firehall project, and that such recommendations be provided as soon as possible.
I'll second that for discussion.
Thank you. Motivation, Councillor Shukin?
Sure. Again, key thing is recommendations, not engage the firm. But we've talked about the needs analysis for several months now, it's popped up several times over the last few months. As I try and understand what this is, it strikes me as a very technical study. Looking at call data, looking at the geospatial realities of the place you live in, your demographics, the service level, the shared service agreements you have with neighboring communities and whatnot. So with that, I think we would be wanting to, and again, the key thing around this is understanding what it is we need going into the future. Are we right sizing the building? Is the rumor of building the Taj Mahal correct? Or is that something we need to actually look at in the future? So this is something that's been bouncing around. And I'm proposing that we get some recommendations on a qualified firm that will help us address that. What's interesting is I think it would complement the technical team and the work they do, not overlap it. So,
Thank you. Mayor Little?
Yeah, thank you. I like this idea because the idea of it complementing with the technical team as well. And Councillor Shukin is right. We did have a needs analysis based on what the former firefighter or former fire chief and the firefighters felt they needed in the building. So this was an alignment with what we have now and what we need later. And so that was what was, and also the JDA architects who had done many of these, they put their input into this needs analysis. And what Councillor Shukin is talking about is a community-wide gap analysis, an assessment of our service levels. I like this idea very much.
Thank you. Councillor Donaldson?
Thank you. Yes, a service review is very, very detailed. The two departments that I spoke of earlier are both IAFF. That came out of it quite a bit too. So we have to be cautious of those sorts of things. Not to say that's going to happen. Our population growth isn't expected to be quite the same as those urban areas. But I had actually mentioned this some time ago. to do a service review. So I do support that concept too. Thank you.
Thanks. I think this, excuse me.
CAO.
Yeah.
Mr. Pyatt.
Yeah, thanks to the chair. Service level reviews, you know, like should happen periodically with any department. We haven't had one, I believe, that I know of. So we should take this seriously. Careful what you ask for. In terms of our ability to provide services. And the other part is I would prefer to engage a number of companies or consultants and get some proposals and bring them forward to council. I know one of the councillors suggested a certain company. I can take that under consideration. Maybe Councillor Donaldson has some other ideas as well. I would like to bring them forward for more fulsome review and get the correct company to do the service level review as it meets our requirements through a proposal process. Thanks.
Thank you. I was going to say that the technical team has offered to do some work on the needs analysis, but I take Councillor Shukin's point of view, which is like, let's get ourselves positioned here so we know what next steps might be. So I would support the motion. And then I think it'll depend on conversations Mr. Pyatt has with the technical team and what's going on and all that kind of thing. So is there anything more?
I'll just comment.
Mr.
I
Pyatt?
agree with the technical team being part of some of the terms of reference for proposals, and I think that would be valuable for the community for sure.
Thank you. Are there any more points on the motion? No, we're all good. So
Could we have the motion read back to us? Have you
Yes.
given it to the Deputy Corporate Officer?
I have.
do you want me to read out what I've got?
No.
Or have you got it there?
I think she's putting it up on the
Oh,
screen.
very good. Thank you. So there it is, the second one on the screen. I'll just read it out. That the CAO provide council with recommendations on a qualified firm to conduct a fire service needs analysis that will inform decisions about the future of the Firehall project, and that such recommendation is provided as soon as possible. Thank you. So that's the motion, and I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Oh, excuse me.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm just, if through the chair to Councillor Shukin, I'm just wondering, how does it differ from the motion that was recommended in 7.2.1?
It is specific to a needs analysis.
Okay, only needs analysis. So only a needs analysis and only one specific consultant or consultancy firm is what you're, I'm just trying to tease out what you have in mind.
No, again, a qualified firm. Again, there is a firm that's been mentioned a number of times. It's based in Kelowna. Councillor Donaldson has mentioned someone that does that here on the island as well. So again, as I understand this, it is a very technical process, and I think it would be a benefit to the community to get qualified and experienced company. So,
And through the chair, can you just outline what is in the fire service needs analysis? Like what specifically?
So again, it would be, the question has come up as to whether we actually need the big building that we had proposed with option 1A. Do we need the bays to be the size they are? Do we need all the equipment? I've even heard that. Do we need an ambulance bay? So again, so we would be looking at, I'm assuming, things like call volumes, demographics in the community, the geospatial realities of Metchosin. And with that, we might also look at climate change too, the fact that we live in a heavily forested area. And I even had a fire professional mention to me last week about the risk of wildfire here in Metchosin, which we have not had to worry about. Shared service agreements that we have. Somebody had mentioned to me, why do we need such a big fire hall? Can't we rely on Colwood and Langford for support there? So what are the realities around that? That's what I take to be a needs analysis outside of, again, on a like a broader basis, as opposed to, so leave it at that.
Okay, and through the chair, so that would be predicated on the overall umbrella needs would be post-seismic or post-disaster, BC Building Code, work safe standard. So that would be sort of the umbrella terms within that needs analysis. I mean, we need to have either building, it needs to be post-seismic or post-disaster. It needs to meet BC Building Code. I know that Councillor Gray asked the question to the architect. We don't need to build to BC Building Code, right? We need, absolutely, that's not an option. We could build it, but you won't get an inspection and you won't get an occupancy permit, right? No engineer would sign off on that. So there are some needs that sort of govern what I'm trying to say with that. There's needs that we need to govern this needs analysis. So as I would be in favor of this as long as it meets those criteria, that it was post-seismic or post-disaster, BC Building Code, and work safe standards. Yeah, is that okay?
Any other comments on the motion? Are we ready to call the question? Councillor Donaldson.
I have a question for Councillor Shukin, through the chair. It says in the CAO's report here, the purpose of the service level review is not what Mayor Little is describing. So I want to be clear that we understand. So the service level is about the complement of people that are actually providing fire service for us. So that would be, how many people there are on a crew by day, night, mutual aid partners, as you have stated, assessing their response performance, like getting there, the deployment realities of that, and really a clear, and as it says here, defensible baseline to support that leadership transition. So service is different than the brick and mortar that I think Mayor Little's also talking about. I mean, it all goes hand in hand, but do we have enough people there to provide the service of going into either an interior structure when there's a fire, which you need 4 for a crew, and you also need 4 to back up within 10 minutes. So, there's some science behind that. Or do we do similarly to what's happening in, which we're not, our grading system's much better than that, or not better, but bigger than that, because we've been able to facilitate it, thanks to the past chief and her foresight. And that is like East Soup we've heard about. They can't go into a building, they can fight from outside. So those are different kinds of services and different grading. So I just want to be clear of what we're asking.
Yeah, if I may, I think we've talked about this on different occasions. So there's at least 2 topics. One is the needs of the building, and Mayor Little is positing it needs to be adequate for the fire service to be provided and post-disaster and these details. And the other question is, what does the community need? How big a fire hall? How many staff? Those kinds of things to meet the needs of the community. And my understanding of the motion here is that we're talking about what are the needs of the community, not what are the needs of the building. It's the question of how big, as Councillor Schutten explained his motion, does it need to be a very large building? Can it be a small building? You know, these are questions about what do we need to serve our community? And that's my interpretation of your comments, Councillor Schutten, rather than putting out the needs assessment, which we already had done in the building, hearing that there are some improvements needed in the building itself. That work's been completed as far as I can tell. Mayor Little, to the motion.
Yes, to the motion, as motivated by Councillor Schucken, he did mention the geophysical space. He used those words. So the geophysical space to me means standards. And so it's not just, unless I'm wrong, Councillor Schucken, the motion wasn't just the community needs analysis. You're talking about geophysical, so that's physical, meaning the standards needed for that physicalness.
I was more, geophysical is probably the wrong term, but I meant the environmental realities of Metchosin. The fact that we have long, narrow roads, we're a heavily forested area, small population, big properties, limited water is a big thing. So stuff like that. But again, all of this goes back, the key thing is in terms of the building and the building we need. This is the point of this motion. And again, the key thing here is recommendations, and I'm sure that the companies that Mr. Payette might go to will be more specific in terms of what they can offer in support of the Firehall project. And again, we may decide that we don't do this, that the technical team is going to be able to give us this, but I think it would be helpful to just understand that with a study that's this specialized, that what's out there to support us.
Thank you. Any other comments? Very little.
Does the CAO want to chime in here?
I'm actually asking the table.
I think we can get advice from the CAO.
No,
Sorry, did you want to speak, Mr. Payette?
Yeah, I can just hopefully help here through the chair. I think, I think that the discussion is amazing. The passion around the table is all directed towards what everybody wants to hear is transparency on the future project. So we're all moving towards the same direction now. I believe that motion reads well enough that I can bring an incredible proposal to council for review on needs analysis, some service level review, all geared towards what the future building should be capable of. So, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Call the question. All in favor? Approved. Thank you. So I think we're ready to move on, except I had one question and comment related to the note that we received. Looking on page 81 of the agenda package, we've got the finance description here, and it says that the total available funding is $9.8 million. And previous staff notes have explained that if we spent more than 6.2 million, there'd be a significant impact on other projected capital expenditures. Basically, the cupboard would be dry until our reserves could be replenished through taxation or grants or what have you. Well, as a result of public participation a few weeks ago, I was looking into the RCMP building and potential cost. And it looks like that project could have a crushing impact on our taxpayers in the district. Our CFO calculates that Metchosin's annual rent could increase from $75,000 to as much as $441,000. And using the CRD loan amounts and the amortization, we have a proportion of about 4.7% of the officers are ours as compared to the other communities. So that's a really big number, and it's hypothetical. So we can't lock onto it. It doesn't include whether it be potential cost overruns. And importantly, we can expect our percentage in that dollar value to decline because our share of overall cost will decline as number of officers increase in the other communities.
Point
the
of order.
point is,
Point of order. Can you tell me where we are in the agenda? Are you
Yes.
talking about the RCMP building? Or this is the Metchosin Firehall project? You're mixing information here and I'm getting a little bit lost. Are you talking about the Firehall? Or are you talking about the RCMP building? Because they're very different.
They are.
One is 150 million, 103 million. This is a very different projects. Can you let me know where we are in the agenda?
Yes, we're talking about the finance notes in the report to the Committee of the Whole on the Firehall project option review, saying there's total available funding of $9.8 million.
What page is that on, please?
As I mentioned earlier, it's on page 81. And so the point here is that we don't have a plan in place to address the enormous anticipated tax
A point of
burden.
privilege? It's not 81 on the agenda that I have. You've printed that off earlier. There was an update. So your numbers are wrong.
Oh, very good.
Can
I'll just
somebody
find
let
it
me
for
know
you.
where we are, please?
It's probably an additional one or two.
You'll see under finance. So it's, yeah.
So the point I want to make is that while we say there's $9.8 million available for the fire hall, we don't have a plan to deal with the enormous tax burden that I see coming for the fire department, for the police building. And so it's not clear to me if we tap into our reserves for the fire hall or if we're going to need to tap into the reserves for the police building. So I'm talking about specifically whether or not there will be $9.8 million available for the fire hall. And I wonder if that we might be helped by having a comparison of costs and the tax impacts between at least two scenarios around the police building, continuing to rent space or becoming a part owner with the other municipalities using our reserve funds. So I'm hoping we might pick that up at a future council meeting so that when we reference the figures in our documents will relate to the different projects we have going and the pressures on our reserves. And that's really all I was wanting to speak to, was the relationship between these numbers and other cost pressures we have that seem quite important to get a handle on.
Could I speak?
Yes, a little.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could hear from the CFO. Never have we ever had a conversation here becoming a member of the RCMP building that you keep referring to, even though we're talking about the fire hall. The RCMP is co-owned by Colwood, Langford, and View Royal. The loan authorization bylaw from the CRD is $103 million. The loan will be carried by the CRD. The CRD will not have any other operational responsibilities. They will remain the owners of the building until it is built. Then it will be transferred to the three municipalities. If you look seriously at our operational budget, could we ever afford to be a co-owner? What you're suggesting would financially bankrupt us. Why would we want to even have that conversation? Like Highlands, like the two First Nations, we are renters in that building. I think we're getting way off track here. And it's a bit of a red herring, this RCMP. Why would we want to deal in hypotheticals? We don't know that. You're talking about hypothetical numbers here, and we want to talk about the fire hall. You've taken us way off course. I'm not interested in that conversation of becoming an owner of the RCMP building. That's $103 million in three communities that are fast growing with a huge population base. We have 1,800 people. How could the tax increases for that would be enormous that you're proposing? I'm surprised that you're even suggesting that. We're renters in the building for a reason. Just like Highlands, we could never afford to be a partner. And I think since you brought it up, we should also hear from our Chief Financial Officer, because I'm sure he's dealt with or he's thought about this a lot more.
Thank you. Yes, I haven't talked to him tonight about it, but we went through these figures and they come from the CFO with the caution and the caveats that the numbers are likely to drop and also that we don't know, whether there'll be cost overruns. The issue is it's a big financial issue impacting the amount of money that we may have for the fire hall, and so we need to be cognizant of these two competing interests. My hope is that we might be able to have a discussion on the fire department, on the police department, at a council meeting with advice from the CFO on the different options. We'd have a very difficult time dealing with tax increase to pay a bill of $400 or $500 or $300,000 annually. And I think it's important that we tackle that seriously. And it comes up because we're talking about the amount of money available here for our fire hall.
So through the chair, if I can ask a question to the CFO.
Certainly.
Mr. Creek, could you ever envision a time, given our fiscal picture right now, our financial house, that we would ever become a co-owner of the RCMP building? I know that puts you on the spot because we're dealing with hypotheticals here, which I don't want to deal with. I want to deal with facts and our fire hall. But since Councillor Gray wants to go there, I think it's important to comment on that.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair, I'll respond. I don't believe that staff will be responding to these questions. We're not prepared. These are out of scope tonight, and it's not fair to staff to be put on the spot. Thanks.
Thank you. So let's move on to our next agenda item, which is just checking the time. Councillor's update, Finance Councillor's update. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you. I'll be brief because it is getting late. Just wanted to say that the 2026-2030 financial plan has been adopted by council. So there was a comment made about a balanced budget being numbers, but also I think what I want to highlight here is that council worked together to strike a balance between residents' needs, community services, maintaining a fiscal prudence and aligning with council priorities, that it wasn't just a numbers game, but we have all the other parts that the community is needing and requiring for us to find and strike that balance between the funds and the services that our residents do need. Including investment in infrastructure and this sort of thing, including our fire hall and that sort of stuff. So it's all at the forefront, but we do have a budget in place now for the next 5 years, and certainly an operating budget for the next year. So I'm happy to report on that. From the agricultural perspective, just a couple of points. We all had attended the recent AVIC convention. I presented a resolution to the membership it was a CSA resolution, so this is community supported agriculture. It was endorsed. It now will be I'll be presenting it at UBCM this fall, so I'll be preparing other things for that because it's a little bit longer of a presentation, all by 1 whole minute. It's amazing what you can pack in 3 minutes, but nevertheless, I did want to say there are 3 farmers in Metchosin who do provide a CSA service, so community supported agriculture. And what that is an opportunity to subscribe for a spell of time, prepaid for your produce box. And it's not just produce. In some cases, you get meat, eggs, that sort of thing, depending on which option you choose. So those 3 companies are Yuminami, which is a year-round CSA producing farm, WinWhip, and Seabluff Farms. So if someone's looking for having some fresh produce, this keeps our local farmers in production, and it also keeps us having some resilience with our farms and some sovereignty, or food sovereignty, so that we have a local economy that we're trying to grow here. The Metchosin Grown Society Community Gardens got a fundraiser coming up on May 24th. It's a plant sale. This is their 2nd one that they've done Since they incorporated as a society, it will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Metchosin Producers Association opened their 2026 Farmers Market this yesterday, Mother's Day. They will have 26 markets this year, so check them out every Sunday from 11 till 2. Again, supporting local producers, artisans, and our rural economy. And that's all I have to report. The rest of it is in the agenda, and people can read the remainder of my report. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Councillor Donaldson. Any questions? Good to go. Great. The next item on the agenda is environmental areas, my update report. So I just had a couple of things. You can read the update I've written. One was that the CRD Arts Commission I sit on approved a number of grants that had been recommended by the Arts Advisory Council. And one of the recipients of the grants was the Metchosin Art Pod, who received $4,800 in support for a feature installation in their collaborations art exhibit running from July 3rd to August 23rd. So that was nice to be involved in, and I look forward to seeing that installation and the art show. On, I'll just jump through a few of the things. Oh, the other, just to note, the CRD Performing Arts Facilities Service at the CRD level, that had gone forward from the board as an alternative approval process, and it passed in the sense that there wasn't much opposition to it, and that means that the CRD board received the certificate of results and adopted the bylaw to create the CRD Performing Arts Facility Service with an annual budget that I think is to be up to $3 million. That's meant to take a look at setting up an arts facilities outside of the core of the CRD. So that's kind of exciting and fits well with the efforts of the Wanda Fuca Performing Arts Group. There was also an interesting note at the meeting that Victoria leads Canada in the Arts Vibrancy Index. We've been named the most vibrant city, and that includes Metchosin, it's the metropolitan area, the most vibrant city in the country for arts, topping a national index that links cultural activity with economic strength. And it's just kind of exciting in the sense that we are put that place because we have so many people employed in the arts and there's so many people enjoying the arts. And we're part of that with the arts that we do here in Metchosin. Council asked that look at the question of roadside ditching. And we did take a look at it. We used a new tool, AI, to give us some ideas about the breadth and depth of the question. And after reviewing that and discussing it some, and we got some input from some residents, Alison Leduc was here this evening, provided some advice. And we feel that we wanted to provide advice back to council that it makes sense to us that a hybrid approach to maximize natural drainage, but use engineered drainage where failure risks exist. We think that may prove advantageous in terms of cost containment, given the extraordinary expenses of disposal of excavated materials. But we were also wanted the district to think about, or staff to think about, ditching practices that, that could be adopted to minimize muddy water, and so that road shoulders are preserved with swale and ditch trimming as necessary. So the idea being, use the ditching where we need it and don't ditch where we don't. And I think the staff are onto that, but that was our sort of advice back to council. There's no action needed. It was really to provide you our opinion. And I think our CAO and the staff are already onto that with our discussions through the budget this year. And those are some of the points for this evening.
Yeah, I'd like to compliment you on your written report. It's nice to see a written report from you, but it's really helpful to follow along rather than a verbal report, which you usually do. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 8A, and that's the correspondence on the proposed Firehall technical team. I think we've had a good discussion about that, and we can move along to the next item unless... No, very good. So the next item on the agenda is 8B, entitled Request for Traffic Calming Measures on LaBonne Road. So what we have here is several letters one letter is from Gwen and Michael Nolan, and the other letter is from Mark Jackman and Mary Louise Riley. And they've both written about traffic safety and the narrow roadway with speeding on LaBonne Road and concerns about road damage. Now, this follows on earlier correspondence, which we heard about from the public this evening. Jackie Larkin spoke about similar concerns that Gwen and Mike and Mark and Mary had all signed a letter to council about this and to the CAO. The issue came up in the mayor's tea that Mayor Little hosted, I think it was last week, and the idea of speed bumps came up in the discussion. And so tonight you'll see attached here is reference to the potential of speed bumps, or at least what our policy is on that. I'm not sure if that's what the residents are asking for. It's mentioned in one of the letters, but I wondered, Mr. Pye, might it be okay to ask you to comment on the notes here? Thank you.
Okay, so through the chair, speed bumps, talking with our public works staff, this will be a first kick at the can, but the policy does allow council to give direction to staff to install some speed bumps on roads that aren't busy roads or major roads. We've looked at the road. I've gone over it with Public Works. The reason this warrants some attention from council is that we have an abnormally large amount of truck traffic due to some building permits, both inside our district, but also in the Sioux-Kanger area. And so I do recommend that we try this. We can get temporary speed bumps. We didn't budget for this, but the costs are not that significant where we could fit it into the roads maintenance budget. We have located a few options for some spots that would make sense with proper signage. One of the problems with this kind of decision for council would be other areas of town wanting speed bumps, of course. If they get it, we get it. I think it's more of a, situational type of decision. This one is based on that building permit and others that are happening. It's not permanent. The building permit is 1 or 2 year permit, so and hopefully it won't take that long. And then we would remove the speed bumps. And so I think that this is a good case where council could actually reiterate to the residents that it's warranted. There's lots of places in Metchosin that their speeding's a problem for sure. I drive here every day and back and forth, and I'm the slowest guy on the road for sure. And the police cannot be here 24/7. I think that it's a pilot project for us to try. It's relatively risk-free. The road construction along Borough and up past where the permits are, that's a narrow, winding road. It wasn't really designed for a lot of traffic. One of the design problems with narrow roads is people chew up the shoulders because they're going too fast, and honestly residents are driving fast too, so residents have to be careful. Like Public Works has trouble keeping the shouldering maintained because people drive on the shoulders. It's a narrow road, so maybe all of this put together will deter from people from speeding, stay on the road, and we recommend to give it a try.
Thank you. Maybe I could just ask a first question: would they be removed in the winter time for the snow plows, or how does that work? Temporary mean they can be put out and back?
No, I don't believe we need to do that. We'll have them marked on each side with signage that the crew will know where they are. So we can remove them if things get better, but I don't believe we would have to.
Thank you. Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. I'd like to move the following. That that district staff review and implement as appropriate traffic calming measures that are suitable to the narrow sections of LaBonne Road and Barrow Road, including the potential of speed bumps, speed reductions, signage, line painting, or other appropriate measures. So if there's a seconder,
A second for discussion.
Thank you.
and I'll just run this over.
Certainly, thank you.
So it does follow what Mr. Pyatt is saying with the potential of speed bumps, but also signage, painting, and speed reductions as well. The one caution I would give is, of course, it's where the speed bumps go, because there isn't going to be a noise associated with those as well. Slowing down to go over the speed bump, going over the speed bump, and then accelerating after. All of those create noise. And the other thing too, I got to say, is there is a lot of bike traffic on LaBonne. So that might need to be taken into account. Even on Saturday, I was following a bunch of bikers and I had to slow down to 30 because it was too narrow to pass. And when I thought I might pass, there was a silver car that came speeding the other way. So again, a very tricky road. One of the, I think, the most dangerous in Metchosin. So again, with the passage of this motion, it does call for review, but also implementation. So.
Thank you. Councillor Donaldson, would you like to add something?
Yes, thank you. So there are a couple different kinds of speed bumps. There's also speed humps. So if we're putting something temporary in, temporary means you can take it out. So the very low profile ones would be less noisy and definitely less hazardous to cyclists and motorcycles and horse trailers. And I say that because this came up a number of years ago down in the corridor here as well. People were concerned about, putting something like that because people, like the CAO says, speed, including my neighborhood that's 40K. So everybody's in a hurry. We live on an island, but they're all in a hurry to get places. So the composition of the speed bump or slow, I think they call them slow bumps, I can't remember, but they're very low profile. They do the job. They're fantastic, and they can be removed. I don't think that they're too they don't interfere too much with snowplows. But having said that, we have a bylaw that says snow deposits between November 1st and May 1st. So there's your winter. So good idea to try a temporary for sure. Because then we're taking it out, and hopefully it's not precedent setting because we'll start seeing them everywhere. But certainly looking at the different models of them, I think, is key to this. Yeah, thank you.
Mayor Little?
Yeah, I don't want to reiterate what everybody has said. I agree. I think this is really necessary. I like the idea that it's a pilot project. And as the CEO said, the operators of the trucks can lift their blades if it does snow. It didn't snow at all last year up on LaBonne where I live. I'm not at this section, but upwards it didn't snow. So with the signage, they will know where to lift their blades. I don't see that this is going to be any deterrent, and I like the idea of trying something innovative for a change in response to community concerns.
Thank you. Well, I think we've heard from Mr. Pyatt that he's had a look and he's suggesting the speed bumps. But I appreciate the motion because it gives some latitude for where to go next. When we talked about it at the Mayor's Tea, the speed bumps came up, but I think Mr. Pyatt's response was more or less the motion, which will actually the number of things to look at, including where the police. So I'm speaking in support of the motion. If there are no other comments, I'm just going to call the question. All in favor? That's been approved. Thank you. The other issue that I wanted to raise was just that one of the police, and maybe I can just ask Mr. Pyatt. We heard from Mark and Mary that when the RCMP come by, that speeds all drop for a stretch of time. So, Mr. Pyatt, can we let the RCMP know, or perhaps we've already notified them from the district, that that's one of the areas we want to have them keep an eye on?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. The other question I had was about the road damage one. And we got that letter, the longer letter, longer letter. Yes, it was longer, but it had a longer list of signatures. And there was that issue of, I gather we have a bylaw that says if council deems that road damage was a result of heavy road use, we might direct, might direct limitations of extraordinary traffic. And so I just wondered if I think, Mr. Pyatt, you may be already working on this, but if it might be good to, what's the validity and reliability of this bylaw? With the legal people, is it usable? And if it is, maybe a staff report or expert advice or whatever you might bring to us to let us know that there is a relationship or there isn't a relationship between the undue burden on the road and the damage, and then we could take some further action possibly. But if would that be appropriate, Mr. Pyatt? Great, seeing you nodding. Thank you very much. I think that would be worth pursuing. Great. So how are we doing for time? I know if we run over a certain period, we need to extend. We can finish. Okay, let's finish if we can. The next item was, this is a correspondence between Mayor Little and the Interim Vice President, Academic and Provost, Deb Linehan at Royal Roads University. And I think we're looking for receipt of correspondence, or is there any other concerns there? If someone moves receipt, we can move on. It's thank you very much for the letter, Mayor Little. And I think we had a very positive response from RIU, and we've already talked about that under the P-task.
Yeah, so you remember this was an item that was related to an item earlier. That was the supporting document for moving forward with our earlier discussions, so we don't need to discuss it again.
Would you like to move receipt?
Move receipt.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Thank you. I think our last item on the agenda is a note from Mike Doehnel, the chair of the Peninsula and Area Agricultural Commission. There's some correspondence there, which is a little bit difficult to understand, but I'm not sure if there's any action required by council. And if not, maybe we can keep the discussion brief. Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, I think it's just more information sharing. It's the deputy corporate officer that took the minutes was explaining to Mr. Doehnel, who is the chair of PAAC, why certain things aren't put into minutes, and he's expressed he just wanted to take it to a different level and let all the member municipalities, 4 of them, know the frustration that they're having at the PAAC level with these referrals to the PAAC. But that is the role of PAAC, is to help councils decipher these different topics that come up with uses of ALR land. And this one is not unusual. We are frustrated with this in our own community. He talks about, oops, I just lost my notes. Basically, he's saying the current, in his opinion, actually, and maybe others shared it as well, the current bylaw system, enforcement system appears outdated, under-resourced, and inconsistently applied, raising concerns about fairness and equity within the community. Residents are aware of other VHA bylaw and ALC non-compliant and this is a trailer issue, situations throughout the district of Saanich, Central Saanich is this one, that remain unaddressed despite complaints, while enforcement actions are pursued against others for similar infractions. So some are caught and some are not. So while one person can have a trailer on their property, there are many other properties that do. So it's all based on compliancy, and this is where the frustration is. He just wanted to explain that part of it. It wouldn't show up in the minutes because the minutes are very high level, dealing with the business of the agenda. So it's just information.
Thank you so much. So might you move a motion for receipt?
Yep, moved receipt.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Thank you. And I think we don't have any other business, so a motion for adjournment's in order. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you so much.